Hello, guys. I hope you guys are all well and having a great week. Tonight, Middlesex University Product Design Engineering, and Design Engineering are excited to host the 19th and final talk of the annual guest lecture series. This runs weekly throughout the academic year on Thursday evenings, bringing together a vibrant mix of speakers from across the full spectrum of design and engineering. So we have a mix of leading practitioners, opinion leaders, radical thinkers, and emerging talents to inspire and support professional development for all of our participants. Tonight, we're really excited to host a group from the MDXPD 2016 cohort for a panel discussion on their journey post-graduation. So we're going to discuss their learnings, their insights while studying, alongside preparing for industry, and processes that they undertook towards getting their first position as well. This talk and this panel discussion builds on the 5 years on publication that we had last year. We looked at what our graduates from 2016 have been doing and where they got to in 5 years post-graduation. So the outcomes from that was really exciting, really enlightening. There was a diverse range of pathways, different careers and experiences as well over the last 5 years, and almost 6 years now. So what this does is it highlights the fantastic creativity and capabilities of all of our graduates and students, and the very diverse range of careers and possibilities that BA Product Design and BN Product Design Engineering programs offer. The 5 years on stories as well. It was a fascinating and inspiring review of the power of a creative education and the positive impact that, driven, young, talented individuals can make on the world. So for all of our participants, I'm sure you guys have already seen these, but feel free to, again, touch on and download and reread the journeys and situations across pages 31 to 54 in last year's MDXPD 2021 publication. And we'll also post a link in the chat throughout the talk. Tonight, we're super excited to have the following graduates from the 2016 cohort join us live: Nihal Islam, William Bristow, Daniel Martinez de Cruz. They are live with us today. We also have Rikefe Ohowosi. He currently resides and practices from Australia. It's currently 3 a.m. there, so he's pre-recorded responses, which we're going to be playing throughout. And we also have Tearfund, Sanjali, Jain, and Charlotte Norris, who've responded to the panel discussion before the talk, and we're going to be posting these textually in the chat throughout as well. To all of our participants, alongside the actual conversation and discussions, feel free to continue to gather your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your sentiments in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end as well, where you guys also have the option to go live and interact after the main talks. And to get us going, guys, let's start off with our very first question: who you are and what have you done on your journeys post-graduation. And to do that, we'll start off with Mike Rikefe Ohowosi from Australia, who's pre-recorded a really nice little snippet there. So let me play that for you guys.
Hi guys, I am Rikefe Ohowosi, aka Mike, and I'm currently working as an industrial designer based out of Sydney, Australia. My first role in design was at a company called Harbour's Footwear. We used to make this really cool detachable slipper. It was known as high-gi, the term for cool, a Nordic term, and it did really well. It was a really popular shoe. And yeah, I moved on from there and moved to Australia not too long after. And then obviously I worked in the freelance industry as a freelancer, really enjoyed it. And I've been doing it for the last few years now. So yeah, I've worked across many different, types of products, from footwear to connected devices, consumer electronics. So I'd like to say I'm a bit of a multidisciplinary designer. I love, attacking problems that need to be solved. So yeah.
Amazing. So that's Mike joining us from Australia, and examples of the Mojave's trainer that he discussed was also in that publication. Now moving over to Dan. Dan, introduce yourself. Who's Dan? A short description of yourself, your current job, your history, your journey post-graduation.
Yeah, man, well done on saying my name, because most people don't get it right. Even when I got my degree, the person didn't announce it properly, so I appreciate that. But yeah, my name's Dan. I currently am a youth pastor as well as working full-time for a charity called Tearfund. My current job title is production coordinator, and I used to be a studio manager there as well as production assistant. a lot of what I do at Tearfund is a lot of paper-based stuff, a lot of mailings, and then there's lots of sort of large events we're involved in, and anything comes our way. Like most recently this week, I've been working on trying to somehow get 7 foot by 2 foot high panels to somehow stay upright in a field for a week. And I've got to somehow figure that out logistically for $3,000. So yeah, it's a little snippet of the sort of things I do.
Amazing. And what about yourself, Nihal? Who's Nihal, and what do you currently do alongside your history post graduating?
Yes, thank you. Hi guys, my name is Nihal. I graduated obviously in 2016 with these guys here. So I'm currently an industrial designer and reward development manager at TCC Global. So we basically create product ranges that we sell in campaigns which last for about 3 months to maybe sometimes even a year. And essentially we design product ranges, and we basically what we do is we allow shoppers to spend at certain stores, and this allows them to kind of basically, anyway, short story, I graduated in 2016. I joined a industrial design consultancy called Caventa. We basically design things from you know, mobile phones to sex toys, helmets, all sorts of cool things that you know you want to do as an industrial designer. But yeah, I graduated from there, and then I ended up joining another company after that. We designed a bike, basically an indoor cycling bike, and then I was approached by a company called Zwift, a startup in America, and they basically came to our office. They were a client, and they said, you know what, we really like the work you do. We want to take you over to Zwift. So we went over to Zwift, me and my teammates, and I was at Zwift for literally about 6 months because I realized it wasn't my thing. And then after that, from going in-house, I went to freelance, wanted to try out different things, you know, see what different things I could work on. And then from there, I jumped to TCC basically. So that's kind of my career from when I graduated in 2016. But yeah, hopefully that answered a couple of the questions from that first one.
Amazing. Yeah, that's brilliant. And Nihal's currently at TCC Global, where Isabel Parker is also at. And it shows the, you know, obviously the power of the MDXP LinkedIn community, the alumni groups that we have as well, you know, where they, you know, connected. Nihal shared a job opportunity. Isabel applied, went through the process, and she's also working as a colleague with Nihal at TCC Global. That's superb. And last but not least, Will, tell us a little bit about yourself, Will. Who's Will, and what have you been doing post-graduation?
Thanks, Ahmed. Well, I'm Will. That's me. And thanks for the intro as well. You may have overstated our prowess there, but thanks. So yeah, I'm a service designer currently at a digital transformation agency called Methods. And Methods do lots of government, public sector work. One of our main clients is DFE and the ESFA, so Department for Education and the Education and Skills Funding Agency. But we've also got other things going on, NHS. We do some stuff at ONS as well, which I know where Tara is working currently, as well as some other things for Government of Scotland. And I think we're even broaching into some work over in the UAE as well. So about me and my background, my first role was actually for my industrial placement, which I would encourage everyone to do if you've not done so already. I know it's not always for everyone, but if you can, I would strongly recommend it. I went to Unilever and ended up, they offered me a job back there when I graduated, was there for a year, doing packaging design and kind of front-end innovation for them, thinking about how what the new innovations are for packaging, not just in the physical object, but also the services as well, direct to consumer and stuff like that. And that led me to want to move over to a part of design called service design, which not very many people know about. I mean, it's fairly new discipline for design, where I struggled initially, so I can talk about that later on. But basically, ended up working for Hackney Council for a bit as a service designer there, and they were the forefront, at least at the time, the forefront in local government digital, and then moving on from there to a housing association called MTVH, and now to Methods.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for that, Will. And guys, you'll notice in the chat, we have responses to the same questions coming in from three of Will's, Dan's, and Nihal's and Mike's colleagues, Tara, Charlotte, and Sanjali. And the responses will be in a lot more detail, but just to summarize, Tara, she's a senior user experience designer at the Office for National Statistics, and she's soon going to complete her UX Masters as well. She's currently on her 10th Nielsen Norman Group exam within the user experience group. During university, she did an internship in engineering and marketing at Siemens at the Crystal flagship building in London. After uni and post-graduating, she was a teaching assistant at Harrow School. She was also a design engineer at Dyson and Slush Puppy. And obviously now she's working at the Office of National Statistics. We also have Sanjali Jain, a short bio for Sanjali. She's a digital designer at Photobox. She's working for the German side of the Photobox department. She works on brand guidelines and works on key marketing and commercial strategy deliverables. And we also have Charlotte, and Charlotte is a hybrid creative, she described herself as. She's worked in studio managing, and she's also a creative director for a brand pop studio that she set up post-graduating. She worked, she set up a business with a creative partner, a graduate from Goldsmiths, and they were doing a work in various fields like film, animation, and photography. And then as her partner left and went to work for an agency doing advertising, Charlotte continued to run the studio independently. And she worked, on projects with people like Anthony Joshua's team, the Ministry of Defense, National Lottery, Nike, and the British Council, alongside other places as well. So guys, over to the second question. And let's start off with yourself, Will. What do you wish you'd known as you were about to graduate? So obviously, many of us are in a similar situation, obviously either finishing off the academic year now, and some of them are finishing off the academic year and maybe thinking about placements in the second year or transitioning into the final year. So I met some of our students on the call, and the participants, obviously they're close to graduating, following a similar kind of trajectory that you guys did, going into the degree shows, new designers, etc., and then looking for employment post-graduation. So like, when you guys look back and reflect, when you guys were at that stage, right, what do you guys wish you would have known as you were about to graduate?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Nihal and Dan's answers are, and Mike's as well, if you're playing a video from him. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, as I'm currently working at the National Career Service, which are looking at this very thing for citizens. And when I've been reflecting, one of the main things was I felt like that it was such a daunting decisions that need to be made at the end. It happens at every kind of qualification cycle, when you do your GCSEs, when you do your A levels or equivalent, or when you're graduating as well. It's like, this decision I've got to make now is the most important decision ever, and it's going to dictate the rest of my life, and this is it. It doesn't work that way. Things change all the time, context changes all the time. You can try doing one thing, but you'll end up somewhere else. I thought I was going to be this kind of all singing, all dancing designer who would be very much in the 3D space. But I've moved away from that after learning through my first job. And yeah, the only way you're going to know is through trying. So don't be afraid for trying things. It's not forever. It's not as daunting as it may seem.
Amazing. And some really interesting insights as well coming from Tara. Was obviously sometimes at that stage where you guys obviously just graduated as students, you might not have the confidence that you had, like in terms of going out the real world. So she was talking about her role at Dyson, and the kind of imposter syndrome where you feel like not up to standard, in the same league as everyone else there. And for example, one of the key insights that Tara was saying is that think about the value that you can add to the team. Everyone has something to offer. Alongside, obviously being a woman in design and a woman in engineering as well. So remember that, like, know your worth as a person. Something else, depending on obviously the dynamics of your team and your management. Another insight and comments from Tara as well was think about your team dynamics. Like, for example, if your boss is micromanaging or being over dominating, for example, like this isn't okay. Like, think about like a healthy work-life balance, because it does exist, and you can make it happen, which is one of the reasons, for example, that she left and she moved on to Slush Puppy as a design engineer, and transitioning through to her UX role now at Office of National Statistics. Now moving over to yourself, Nihal. Nihal, what would you say that you would wish you'd known as you were about to graduate?
Oh, so many things, Ahmed, honestly. Well, to be honest, I've got a load of things I can say, and there's obviously part more kind of to do with the product design, industrial design side of things I knew, and then there's more kind of overall, kind of not specific to product design, but more kind of overall for everyone. So I'll start off with so is there a lot of people today who want to kind of go into kind of 3D product design? But it's worth checking. Anyone around?
Little show of hands, guys.
I can't actually see, so sorry.
There's a few little reactions coming through.
But yeah, no, it's great. If there's a lot of you thinking about going into it, it's a great career. When I first started, obviously at Coventa, I managed to get that role because I had some experience, obviously, from my internship. So I did an internship at TWD London and V2 Studios. And I think that kind of gave me that little bit of confidence, knowing that I was familiar with what would be happening, if that makes sense. So obviously, it doesn't matter if you haven't done an internship. Obviously, Will did mention it's always great if you can. Even if you after you graduate, don't worry about looking to go for that kind of first, it has to be a junior design role. Get an internship, get something. But one thing I wish I knew is kind of my soft skills, my kind of core skills when it comes to product design. Like sketching, CAD, things like that. You've got to make sure they're at a good level, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. Only because, you don't want to kind of go in and someone tells you to kind of help, you're going to be thrown loads of different tasks, right? You're not going to be like, you can be really good at something, which is good, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be told instantly, oh, you're going to be doing this all day, every day. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So my CAD skills, unfortunately, weren't the best. And I kind of look back and think, I really, really wish I spent a lot more time, doing CAD, spending more time in, specific things like surface modeling. I don't know if you guys have done more advanced modeling in their second years, but I think that's one thing, it's not too late. It never is. But thinking about like this, say, you don't necessarily want to jump into a job yet, maybe spend a couple of months just practicing soft skills, working with your classmates, after, in the evenings to do little design projects, kind of get those skills kind of back on track. Because obviously you've just gone through a very hard final year, right? And it can be quite daunting after you finish up. Some of you may feel quite burnt out, but it's time for you to kind of think about, I've got to get my skills there. I've got to get my portfolio up there. Don't immediately always think you've got to jump straight into a job. That's not the case. Make sure everything's up to scratch. And then when you do apply for a job, when it comes to that time, and you've got everything ready, your portfolio, your skills are there, you'll feel so much more confident. You'll feel better. You won't feel like you won't know what's going on. When you're actually in that environment, you won't feel scared. You won't feel like, oh, I don't really know what to do. Because I struggled a lot. I didn't ask a lot of questions. I went a lot quiet. I kind of noticed as I graduated, I just went quite quiet because I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. I wasn't asking the questions. You've really got to make sure you keep asking questions all the time, every single day. Literally, that's what I've actually just picked that up now, if I'm honest. I literally at my new job, I'm still learning, but the only way I learn is just keep asking questions. At my old job, I had that kind of unfortunate thing where if I ask more than 3 times, it'll be like, too many times, you can't answer now. So, obviously don't worry too much about, landing that perfect role as well. I never had my first, I thought working at a design consultancy, Coventa, in London, one of a well-known industrial design company, I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. But, it probably wasn't my best experience. I was there for about 4 years. I enjoyed it, but, for me, it was more getting my foot in the door, take any opportunity you can get, try it out. If you don't like it, try something new. Like Will said, you know, it might not be fully right for you, but you've really got to try different things. So luckily I was able to work in-house, work, you know, with different companies, loads of clients. I tried everything I could, and now I'm kind of at a career where I'm really enjoying my job, right? But I'm also trying to figure out, do I really want to stick around with this? I'm enjoying it, but is this what I want to do? So you kind of get that choice when you know, I've probably gone off for a while now anyway, but yeah, hopefully that kind of answers questions, and feel free to ask more questions. You know, it's the best thing to do if you don't understand anything I'm saying, or, you know, if you need any advice, feel free to obviously ask.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, great points there as well, in terms of, you know, like developing your skill sets and getting it to a standard where you're happy to then obviously apply for roles within the industry. So, you know, if you are studying product design engineering, sometimes, you know, like what Nihal was mentioning in terms of applying for a 3D design, like almost the traditional product 3D product designer, or so we're not talking about the digital product design at the moment, which kind of dominates many of the roles in the market, or like, you know, the classical industrial design. You guys will know, obviously, throughout the course of your studies, what the required skills are, you know, through the modules that you guys have studied across the 3 or 4 years if you're on placement. So again, you know, being able to benchmark your skills against work in the industry, work that's being shared online by other designers, and seeing what level you're at, improving those, you know, being quite honest and transparent in terms of your capabilities, and continuing to develop those, which is quite interesting, because you can continue to develop those, you know, through placements, through you know, employment, alongside you know, the opportunity to, you know, take a break at some point, you know, be it straight after graduation, like Nihal mentioned, and strengthen your portfolio and your core skill set before you then feel comfortable enough to apply. So there's no timeline or time pressure as such, and there's some superb insights there. And in terms of, you know, creating a digital portfolio, you can also, you know, look back at that same issue, MDXPD 2021, and there's a fantastic section in there in terms of, you know, creating a digital or a physical design portfolio for the various design disciplines. On that note, in terms of developing the skills as well, Sanjali kind of touched on a few points which I thought was worth mentioning. Some soft skills, some you know, hard skills perhaps. So she talked about a digital portfolio as well. So some you know, preparing a digital portfolio, having that ready by the time, you know, you're graduating or just post-graduating, post-graduation as well, which makes it quite convenient, you know, for applying for jobs, and people get to see a flavor of, you know, the type of work that you've undertaken alongside your style in terms of, you know, the synthesis of your skills. Another core skill, and that Sanjali said that she would have loved to improve at that stage, was public speaking and communicating, you know, verbally. So being confident with the work, being able to stand and, you know, articulate, you know, what the concept is, what it does, the process, etc. Being able to discuss that, you know, in a public audience, I mean, that's always a valuable asset to have. But alongside that, make sure that your work aligns with what you say as well, right? So you can both verbally and visually kind of communicate. And then another one, a nice little tip there from Sanjali, just to round it off, is that, you know, if you don't have the skill, or you feel like your skills are not fully developed at that point, like, it's okay to ask for help, or go on YouTube, or, you know, go LinkedIn Learning, etc., and continue to develop your skills, both during the course of your studies or post-studying as well. So, you know, this relates to a lot of the software stuff, alongside, you know, there's so many courses out there where you can, you know, get industry insights, you know, like you get a flavor from other professionals, which will enhance you to develop those skill sets. So thanks to Sanjali for those points as well. Now moving on to Dan. Dan, what would you say that you would wish you know as you're about to graduate?
Well, yeah, you know, so many people have already mentioned I've got a good lot. I suppose some of the key bits I've sort of written down, that are, some are a bit more specific, some are a bit more general. More general is collaboration. I think that is something that Wing from day one, year one, banged on about collaboration. And I remember doing OpenIDEO and thinking, man, there's like 2 guys that I saw on the first day, and then I didn't even see them on the last day. How the hell am I doing this work? And then they're like year 3s. Yeah, man, could you send me those sheets? I'm like, bro, who? No, but you know, young me, I did that. But collaboration is so key in the workplace. You need to be at a level of I think sometimes it depends on your role too, and how your studio or place is set up. and Nihal rightly saying, you know, you need to get things up to a certain level. On the other hand, there are so many times when I've been in ideation sessions where I'm always with a copywriter, I'm always with what they call a designer, but they're more digital designers. They're working in digital and print space. And then we'll have like a project manager as well, and someone that's that might be a key knowledge holder in the area. You know, if we're doing something to do with an advocacy campaign relating to, you know, COP that just happened, for example, we'll have all these knowledge bases in one room, and we're all bouncing off each other, and everyone has an equal input. So we're all there for a common goal, and that's how it should be. So I get that that's really tough at uni because you've got to produce something yourself to be marked at, but really start depending on each other and bouncing ideas off each other, not just at uni, but in your spare time. And even the other day, I was chatting to a friend of ours called Toby and Rikefe as well, and, you know, talking over where we're at, comparing our disciplines, bouncing ideas off each other, even helping each other with ideas, problem solving. That's something that I would greatly encourage. Proofreaders, gosh, that's something that I just always heard. Proofread it yourself. True, you should. But I wasn't very good at it, clearly, because my portfolio had loads of issues with it. And then I asked my flipping grandma to read it, and someone else, and they did a shocking job because they didn't pick up on anything. So then I'm then sending this out to places thinking it's done. And just like Nihal was saying, don't feel like it's done. You need to sort of grow it. And again, at that point in time, I was ready to quit. I was so tired. I was so done. But at the same time, use your time that you've got afterwards, if you don't have it before, to go through it. Pay for a proofreader to go through stuff. To give you some context, I was a broke student, but at work, we have everything proofread. It costs about £30 for an hour or half an hour's work, and it won't take long to go through a portfolio. That can be the deal breaker sometimes, I think. If you're sending things out on email saying, look, I'm presenting myself to you, first impressions, it'd be great if you've got some opportunities for me. And then like first few pages, you've got spelling mistakes, you've got words that are missing, you've got widows, things like that. It's not a good look, and it doesn't necessarily communicate that you're serious and ready, perhaps. And I suppose the other thing I would mention is time management. That's a big one. Learning to manage time and learning to put gaps in for you to rest, but at the same time needing to get things done. You can't just come to uni and just be like, look, I'm only here for 3 hours, and if I don't finish it in these 3 hours, then it's fine. Like, you've got to manage things properly. If you've got to come in earlier, do that. You've got to prioritize. You can only do things at uni, in the workshop, do that then, and do other stuff at home, whatever it is. But there were times when I was more lax, and then I felt the consequences of that. Or even friends that would talk to me and say, look, Dan, man, I really didn't take this seriously. Or Win would say this often: you can do the same amount of work often in 6 days than you can in 6 weeks. And it's so true. You can often bang stuff out real quick, and don't underestimate yourselves. And the technicians, I think the technicians are people that operate machinery, manufacturers, whatever it is, the people on the ground, the people that know materials. They have done the metal bending, they've done the machine folding, they've done the saddle stitching and PUR binding, all of that stuff. You would not believe how valuable those people are in terms of contacts. I remember one of the first jobs I printed at Tearfund was a very thin, a PUR bound booklet is one with a flat edge. So there's glue and there's like a gum in the spine. Usually only do that on thicker booklets. This mug here was asked to print something thinner. I didn't have the knowledge or know-how to sort of like understand all of that at the time. I printed the book, and then there was like glue seeping out the edges and on the front and back pages. And we had to that was something that was going to be used for some really high value donors. People giving Tearfund like 500k plus. So clearly that was not something that we used, but I then had really good conversations and made good connections with the people that with one of our suppliers. So I think that sort of knowledge is also really helpful and good contacts for moving forward.
Amazing, great insights there, Dan. And on the basis of collaboration and networking, obviously collaborating with multi-stakeholders, you're not a one-band team, right? What's it called? You can't do everything yourself. So one of the feedback that Charlotte's put forward for us as well is always network and build your network and collaborate with others. You get a great opportunity to do this obviously throughout the course of your studies, both on campus with your lecturers and the wider university teams, alongside obviously different technicians who have expertise in certain areas, alongside all of the fantastic guest lecturers that come in on a weekly basis. Furthermore, as you guys are finishing your studies and finishing your undergraduate kind of journeys, you also have the amazing opportunity to take part and participate in degree shows and such as New Designers, which can open a lot of doors to different routes, such as like Charlotte mentioned, winning awards, scholarships, internships, and employment opportunities. And over the course of the last couple of years, since we've actually been doing New Designers and the degree show prior to that as well, many of our students have used these opportunities to both network locally, nationally, alongside securing some of those great things that come from participating. Another thing that Charlotte mentioned, which I think is really pertinent, obviously we're talking a lot about the core skills, the hard skills, all of that kind of stuff, is life skills, right? And having a healthy work-life balance, because obviously you have different dynamics. So you have everyone has a different kind of a socio-economic standing. Everyone has different backgrounds. Everyone's at different stages in their lives or personally, and at times for example life can throw you a curveball. You might be it a health issue, be it something related to mental health or physical health and your well-being. And what you have to understand is that takes a priority over other things. Health and your well-being is super important. And Charlotte, on this particular note, she mentioned that if she was to answer this question a couple of years back, her answer would have been completely different to what it is now, because she has a very different perspective. I mean, based upon some of the health issues that she has gone through and overcome recently as well. So one of the key things that she mentioned was believe in yourselves, drink a lot of water, sleep enough as well, and find a healthy balance between being ambitious, but alongside that, take care of yourselves. And remember, for example, money and work isn't everything, right? Because obviously, if you're in employment, remember you can be replaced, right? So don't affect your health whilst chasing the bag. She's putting in inverted commas, and then she also mentioned, right, be relatively resilient and thick-skinned as well. Don't be too precious on your ideas. Don't be too precious in terms of your views and your opinions. Take feedback and criticism on the chin. Because there's real opportunities in terms of personal and professional growth that way as well. So I'm saying there's some superb insights there from Charlotte, which is a really nice and different kind of flavor on the conversation and discussion we're having. And the last but not least on this particular point, in terms of what would you have wished you would have known stage that you would have been at before graduating, we have a couple of pointers coming in from Mike Rikefe from Australia. So let's play the recording.
What do I wish I would have known before graduating? I wish I would have known how hard it was to get a job and being prepared to apply for work, having the skills, i.e. having a really good portfolio, also networking and meeting people. Sometimes your face fits in places if you can show that you'd be a good fit for the business, as opposed to your hard skills. Sometimes they'll be willing to take on someone who they like and help develop them. You've got to be somewhere thereabouts in terms of your skill set, but I think people will try and bring you on if they see something in you. So be out at networking events. When I was in my final year, I was doing all sorts. I was going to IFA in Berlin to go and meet up with go to expos and just meet up with different people and things that I was interested in. And also find out what it is you really want to do and what you're interested in at the time, because after you finish, things do change. You know, my interest in design have changed so many times. I'm interested in doing connected devices. I'm interested in footwear. I'm interested in fashion. I'm interested in the built space. You know, so you know, if that's the case, like go and find a company like that. Like what I would like for me would be like go and find someone like Barber and Osgoby. They do everything all in one go. You know, via Universal Map and the Alta Barber and Osgoby. You know, there's places like that exist. So find where they are and try and network and tailor your design or your folio to them, that type of company.
And now that leads us nicely on to our next question, guys. So how did you find your first job? What was the processes? What was the procedures like in terms of landing your, first foot in the door as such? So yeah, go for it, guys. So let's start off with Dan. Go for it, Dan. Tell us about yourself and getting your first job.
Yeah, so I was jobless for a while. I sort of touched on it a bit earlier. I sent out my non-proofread, what I thought was final portfolio, the same portfolio to everyone. No tailoring, mass emails, and it just didn't go well. Indeed, I got on Indeed too, and I think they were good, make them work for you. But I didn't have much luck with that before I got my role that I got now. I sort of fell into it by accident. My dad used to work for Tearfund for like 25 years, and us as a family have quite a long history with the company, but I didn't think there was opportunity for me to work there, and I did not want to work in an office. It was just not what I wanted, and I thought that was boring, and it's all pastel colors and flipping middle-class white people, and I just couldn't deal with. I just couldn't deal with the thought of that. But there was I found out that they had an in-house sort of studio setup, and they were looking for a studio manager, ideally someone that had experience in the creative space to manage the team and their workload, as well as also someone that could help with production on a 60-40 sort of split. So I went for the job, went through some interviews, and yeah, I was told after, obviously not allowed to share things afterwards, but I was told it was, it was competitive. But I think all of my voluntary work I've done with youth as well helped to round out what I could offer them, not just from a design creative perspective, but also how to manage people, all of that. So that came in, that was really helpful for me. And then from there, after a year and a half, it was basically clear that I was doing 2 full-time jobs, and I couldn't keep up with either one. So they managed to get some budget to separate it. And I had to make a choice whether I was going to go down one route or the other. And because they have I'll pick up on this another time if there's time, but they have a non-promotion policy at Tearfund, and there's a lot of places that do that now, where you have to apply for every role. You can't just get promoted up into the role or get a pay rise unless there's a legitimate reason or change in responsibility. So I had to apply for it. So that was a bit nerve-wracking as well, to think, man, I've put a lot of time into this job. I've changed a lot of things internally as well. And to think I could then go for an interview and then not get the job, that was scary. But I did get the job, and I'm still there now.
Amazing. And what would you say, Will, in terms of landing your first job in terms of service design?
Yeah, so I mentioned, it was good, by the way, to hear that, Dan. It's a good experience to hear. Yeah, I had, I guess, a very luxurious start, very lucky start to my career, where I'd done the placement and then was offered a role after graduating. But as you say, that didn't necessarily help me when it came to changing over to service design, and I was unemployed for about 9 months whilst trying to figure it out, and I learned quite a lot through that time. I think I must have sent out about 200 job applications in that time. Yeah, it was tough, and it was sporadic, not particularly focused, which is a learning in itself. But what ultimately helped was focusing on those transferable skills And whether you do design or engineering, and actually within the whole industry, the opportunity for transferable skills is enormous, way more than others. So being able to focus on those transferable skills really helped me stop focusing on the thing. I did that a lot at the beginning, when I was talking to people or sharing portfolios and stuff. I really focused on the thing that I had created rather than how I got there. And I'm sure that's advice which will come from Ahmed and Win and all the tutors. Yeah, the thing is great and you should be proud of it, but that's not necessarily what people are looking for when they're hiring. They want to know, they want to have confidence in you. It's like any other sales pitch. They want confidence in that you can do that stuff for them. So you've got to ask yourself what's going to give, if you were them, what would give you confidence that you could do the role? And it's all of that stuff, that all the brain work, all the thinking work that leads you to that end result. And service design, I would encourage anyone to Google it, because I bet you'll find a different answer everywhere you go to what it is. And no service designer is the same as another. But yeah, that's one of the key things, was focus on the transferable stuff. And I guess as a second point there, when you do speak to people, we've had great advice already about having a good portfolio. I'm sure there are really specific questions around that, which happy to answer. But once you've kind of got to that next stage, people care more about what you say than necessarily what you show. It's a thing about, you'll learn this through doing any presentation. What you say is more important than what you show. What you show should support your message, and anything visual should support your message. You can't lean on it too much. You have to have a very good message. So I would advise write everything down by hand. Resist typing things out, resist just having images. Write your message out in bullets to start with, and then write it out in full like a script. You can put that to one side, but write things out, because it will strengthen your message. Yeah, that's it. I can speak to, I see lots of questions in the chat, and I've got time to stay on afterwards as well, Ahmed and Win, to pick any of those up. But that's it for that question.
Amazing, that's brilliant. And yeah, really interesting points there as well. Will's also, contributed, to the portfolio articles in last year's magazine, in the 2021 publication. So I'm saying you can obviously, read that as well. It covers a lot of points, pertinent to service design and service design portfolios. So, definitely have a read of that. And one of the key things that Will mentioned that we always reiterate as well is, the process is more important than the destination. So the journey, the journey that you've been on, the journey that you go through the project, your thinking, your application of skills, etc. Communicate that, document that, show that. But people like to see, how you approach a problem, and alongside obviously what solution you get to. Yeah, and a couple of pointers coming through from Tara Tasfir. In terms of some of her takeaways, in terms of landing a first job, it's like don't let bad experiences dent your commitment to your chosen career, right? And it's okay sometimes if you are fluid and flexible to change, routes within design engineering, or completely. Like, so for example, all of these participants today, and all of our guests, Dan, Nihal, Will, they've all studied the same course, but you can see how diverse their careers are, right? Service design, industrial design, like in production managers. So I'm saying, and Mike's a freelance designer who's worked across fashion and footwear. Taz is working in UX. So I'm saying that there's so many diverse routes, and don't feel the pressure that you have to stick to what you've undertaken at an undergraduate level. There's that flexibility to kind of transcend and move over time. And on that note, Tara did transition to UX, right, from the traditional design engineering, even after working at Dyson. One of the things that she said, it was have faith in yourself, don't be unhappy, and always have that personal touch. So when you're looking for jobs, and when you're looking to connect with people, direct, personal, and well-researched messages on LinkedIn. Not only asking for roles or mentors, but like to ask for feedback and advice from people well established in that areas. And on that note, some people like to take you under their wing, give you feedback, and they can also you can use their connections and if they see openings, that can obviously work in your favor as well. Nihal, what would you say, Nihal, in terms of landing your first job?
Yeah, so for me, the way I landed the job at Coventa, so basically before it came to our time for new designers, our Crew and Brewery show, I basically just made sure a couple months before I started working on my portfolio, so collating all the work that I've been doing during uni, picking and choosing what's right, what's wrong, what's more relevant for the job that I want to go for, right? So I made sure I had a bit of a mix, but more tailored to what I wanted to go into. So obviously industrial design, and made sure it was more physical product focused. So 3 months before, this is my advice I would give: make sure you start now. Essentially, this is the right time. I'd say you've got a couple months until you guys graduate, so this is the time where you slowly start picking it up, getting into InDesign, whatever you want to use, and start building your portfolio slowly and making sure I mean, I could do a whole class on portfolio building, but it's got to look amazing. It's got to be so easy to go through that, when I landed my job and I was told the exact truth by the employer, because I noticed when I was at the job for a couple of years in my first job, they would show me when they went through portfolios, and it would literally be like this, just on the key, like boom, 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 just going through really quickly, because unfortunately we don't have a lot of time. So you've just got to make sure your portfolio is at a point where you can look through and just skim through. You don't necessarily need a lot of the text. It's got to be very impactful, visually striking. You've got to show your process, and I feel like I did that to help me land my first role. I'll be happy to share my portfolio in the chat if anyone. I was actually looking through my old 2015-16 portfolio, and you'll see the massive difference when you start to gain experience and see how much it changes. But anyway, going back to kind of thing, so I applied for pretty much everywhere, sent my portfolio, sent my CV, everywhere in London, because I knew that I wanted the industrial design role in London. I told myself that, and I kind of manifested this kind of, I'm going to get the role, I want it. So it was going to be quite a few hard months constantly applying, and it will let you down when you don't hear back. Don't let that let it get you down. Just make sure you keep pushing. Something will come through eventually. It can take a lot of time, and I've been through it as well. I had a bit of a pause in my life where I needed to take a break, and when I was starting to go back into design, it was, for me, it was, I needed to make sure I had that break in order to go back in. But anyway, again, going back to my initial point, what I would also advise is calling up the companies, just making sure, sometimes networking right now isn't possible, but just giving them a call and just saying, hey, look, I'm going to send my portfolio CV through. If you get a chance, could you send it through to the, design director or whoever you want, and just mention your name. Just say, look, I'm just about to send it through. Please, could you just kind of, and that just gives them that kind of, over everyone else who's just sent a portfolio CV through. That's what we all did, right? We just sent it through, copy and paste email, copy and paste, change the company name. Obviously we all do it, but that's the way you got to do it. You've just got to send through your portfolio CV to every single company. I still do that, by the way. I feel like everyone does it now, and we don't talk about it, but it's the way we do it. But that's what I'd recommend. Having a good portfolio, having that kind of desire to show yourself, kind of be like, hey, look, I'm here, I want this job, I want this role, I'm applying for it, you send it through. And, I was very lucky to land a role within the first week of graduation. I think that was a lot of luck, but I didn't, unfortunately. What happened was that new designers and our Brick Lane Crew and Brewery show, I was like set, like I'm going to get a role today. I know why I wasn't there, but because I didn't, that kind of bogged me down. And I thought to myself, oh, there was a load of people getting like, CVs and cards and business cards. So I kind of told myself, I won't give up. But out of nowhere, after all of that, graduation, I just got an email just saying, hi, do you want to come in for an interview? And I just went, oh, okay. It wasn't a massive informal kind. It was like, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? So what I did when I went into the interview, I took literally everything I had, from first year, second year, third year, all prototype, everything. You just got to take it, because who cares what people think, honestly? Just take it and just show passion. This is what I did. This is my process. It's not perfect, but this is how I got to from there to there. And you'll see like the delight on people's faces. They love it. Why would you not love that? You know what I mean? Even if it's a really crappy prototype, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of how I landed my role. I went in, I spoke to them. It was very fairly relaxed studio, which was nice. I just bought everything out, and you'll be surprised how going from a very, is it formal or informal, very businessy type kind of chat to, whoa, look at these cool prototypes. Everyone just goes really excited. and it kind of makes you feel really relaxed and quite happy because you can see their reaction. And yeah, I heard back the next day. That's how I landed my role. Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And I think that passion, passion for what you do and the passion for what you show and how you communicate that. I mean, people can obviously see that, right? They can see the energy, they can see how you, kind of communicate, your work and what you do and how you've done it. And, for example, you're never the finished article. You've studied something for 3 years, maybe 4 years if you're taking a placement, right? Even 6 years on, you're still not a finished article, right? You're learning, you're growing, you're continuing to develop. Well, you're 6 years. I mean, 6 years better than you were 6 years ago, right? You're more experienced now, right? I'm saying,
exactly.
That passion is super important, and that kind of links to what Nihal and the team were mentioning previously as well, in terms of the passion of kind of developing your skill sets outside of the core requirements of your undergraduate teaching, right? Like just wanting to learn more and be better at at certain things. And again, that works in your favor. It's an investment in yourself. Touching on a couple of Nihal's, Will's and Dan's colleagues, Sanjali was mentioning, that she found it, relatively straightforward. She had a couple of rounds of interviews. She went through a design recruitment agency, and then she, obviously the traditional kind of presenting your portfolio, and a CV and cover letter. And she went through that traditional process. She found it straightforward. There's a lot of it's a common thing now, actually, when you're applying for a role, to have a mini task or a little brief that's also set within that kind of a recruitment process to kind of see how you approach a challenge under a shorter time frame, perhaps. So I'm saying that's something that Sanjali also had to do. She said, she also switched her roles, a couple of times, since graduating, but she's enjoying her process now. And Charlotte, she'd freelance at university. She'd also worked in she landed her first job through an agency in a studio in Shoreditch before transitioning into setting up her own studio thereafter. And to summarize, she obviously reiterated those few points that we made earlier in terms of, number one, balance, remember your health and don't sacrifice yourself for money and work, and be resilient both professionally and personally, and keep growing. Don't stop developing yourselves. And that same question going over now to Rikefe. How did you find your first job, Mike?
How did I get my first job? So it was difficult for me. I had my first kid just as I was graduating, so I was running around. My partner lived in New York at the time, so I was between New York and London towards the end of my degree, trying to do my final major project and get ready for a kid. So I was really stretched for time. Probably didn't spend as much time as I should have done on my folio, but I think I had enough in there to sort of help show my skills and my soft skills and my hard skills. And I was looking for work for a couple of months, and my friend, a good friend of mine who runs a really, really successful footwear consultancy called Concept Kicks, his name's Dan, he knew that I was looking for work as a fresh graduate, and he was like, oh, Mojave, this company I worked with are looking for a junior designer, or designer developer was a role. He goes, you'd be perfect for it. And it wasn't necessarily something I was crash hot on, but he goes, look, I'll tee up a meeting with the head of product. Met up with him, and we hit it off, and he was like, oh, look, I really like the way you work and the way you think. I was able to show my portfolio and the way I design and the way I think and process things. They were keen to get me in, and I think I started like within a week after meeting him. And I was there just for over a year before I moved to Australia. So, and I had a great time, and I learned loads. I had actually a lot of responsibility. I was going on development trips to Portugal where our factories were, tasked with sourcing suppliers and manufacturing for new processes in the footwear, building apparel ranges, everything, anything you could name that was involved in development. But it was good to be thrown in a deep end because you learn very quickly, and what you don't learn, you'll have a good superior who will show you how to do it. So yeah, it was good. It was a good time. As soon as you get a chance to start networking with people, just get yourself out there and meet as many people in the fields that you want to be in. So definitely, I'd say go out there and network and try and meet people, because 9 times out of 10, it's probably how they perceive you in terms of more so than what you can do, with your work. You have to be obviously thereabouts, but yeah, definitely try and meet and network.
Amazing. Thank you, Mark. And the final question for you guys, and this is specifically for you guys who are on the call today, right? So a question I'd like to ask you guys is, like, obviously you guys have spent either 3 years, Dan, or 4 years, Nihal and Will, because you guys undertook a placement year as well, whilst you guys were undergraduate students. What did you guys get from, you know, studying the MDXPD, the Middlesex product design or product design engineering degrees? What did you guys get out of it? What are some of your highlights, some of your takeaways, like, you know, reminiscing, if you're looking back in hindsight now, 6 years on? What did the courses offer you? And how did they set up the industry?
Go on, Will, did you want to say something?
I was going to say no comment. Oh, my lawyers will be in touch. No, it was, I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of these guys here, and I'm sure they've got their own perspective. But for me, where especially as it's a time when you're trying to figure out who you are is the kind of nice fluffy thing, but like what you really want to do and what excites you. And my one of the things I've quoted this at people when, and I hope you're happy. But there's a phrase that you said at least once that stuck with me, was university is a place where you learn to learn. You may not get all of the answers, but it's a place where you figure out how to get some of the answers that you're looking for. And that's one of the main things that I've brought with me is, yes, I learned some specific skills, and I see people asking in the chat about like Photoshop and CAD and all of that stuff, which is important skills to take forward, and it's a good, safe environment to practice that stuff. But it really is the ability to reflect on yourself and learn to learn. I will always take that with me.
What would you say, Dan?
Yeah, I think I'm supposed to keep it short. Two things. One, someone mentioned a question earlier about transitioning from second to third year. That was the biggest shock for me, but I think it was a good shock. The step up of quality needed, the amount of the quantity of output, and how quickly you had to do it compared to second year. For me, anyway, at that time, was a massive step up, but I think it was necessary. And there would often be times at the beginning of projects, I think, man, I've got 6 weeks and 100% of this I don't know how to do. But then going, and it links in with what Will was saying, that Win said, is learning to teach yourself in part. So you'd be having those weekly meetings, and those are so important to go to, you know, even if you can't attend it or whatever because you're sick, send something in for something to be reviewed. Because those conversations would help, because Win, Ahmed, others might not have all the answers, but they might know someone that does, or know a company, know a website, and then you go from there and you can achieve a lot. The other thing I would say more generally, it was touched on a bit on the course, and for my role anyway, my sector, the whole importance of eco, the world, the planet, is vastly important, and I'm sure there's a bigger emphasis now on the course, but avoid plastic at all costs if you can, in my opinion, and get to know things like what is FSC, what is PEFC, what are plant silks, what are starches, what happens to plastic, and if you look into it, even bioplastic, look into what it actually does. What does it break down into, or does it ever go away? You know, that whole chestnut there, but also how we design things. And again, this was something that opened my eyes on the course, was we don't always have to design something that is made from flipping bamboo, because everyone loves bamboo, but you can design things with more premium materials that might cost more, but with the intention of being used long term and being repairable, things like that, I think are so key. And also a massive thing as well, learning what the difference is between something that's compostable and something that is home compostable is a massive thing that lots of people in industry use, where they say it's compostable, You think you can stick it in your compost bin, but it really can't. Yeah, just a few things to sort of look into, perhaps.
Amazing. Great points there, Dan. And last but not least, Nihal, what would you say, looking back at your time at Middlesex University, product design, what do you...
Yeah, no, I think for me, honestly, I had the best time at uni. You know, the course was great. I learned so much and I used the course. I think for me, it felt like the course was so open that you could just do what you wanted almost, sometimes, all the time, but you kind of chose what you wanted to do and you led, you know, it gave you, you know, going from obviously, you know, some of you might have gone sixth form and stuff, jumping on to obviously university, it kind of gave you that, you know, I guess confidence to be like, you know, I'm going to own this. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it my way. Obviously, it was really nice having those kind of weekly meetings, those constant feedbacks. That for me was really nice because in my head I knew, right, my design's going to get better. It's going to, you know, from all the feedback we got from people, it kind of made it kind of eases you into the industry. You know, there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions. That's a big thing. So I think for me, it allowed me to really get better. Just, you know, if someone will tell me their opinion, I'll take it. You know, it's always a valid opinion. Someone, you know, you need at least an opinion, right? So then, you know, you have a bit of a discussion. You know, you can talk about what's good, what's bad about design. So I think for me, you know, it was about going into uni, doing what I needed to do, and not being pushed back. You know, win yourself. You know, you guys allowed me to have that freedom to do what I wanted to do, and that, you know, I genuinely really appreciate it. And I think for the guys here as well, you know, we did our things. We all kind of went our separate ways into our career paths, and it's a really beautiful thing if you think about it. You know, it's really nice. Like, we're doing our things now, and you know, we all learned the same things pretty much at uni, but it kind of took us on different paths. But I think for us, I took in certain things more, I'd say. As for Pad, I told myself, like, you know, I need to get better at this. You know, I spent more time in it because I knew in the back of my mind I wanted to kind of use this as a skill later on. But for some other people, you know, they were like, I know I'll probably end up using a lot of Photoshop for this kind of role I want to go into. So it was really nice. You can't be good at everything. That's something no perfect designer exists, you know, and you can't be amazing at everything, but you can have a good balance, and you can have certain skills that you really push yourself. Sketching, that may be CAD, whatever it is, brainstorming, you can really push yourself. And I pushed myself in certain things such as sketching, because that was something I really enjoyed. And when it came back to design and products, I felt really like it was just so fun for me, being able to do these kind of things. So I think for, you know, being at Middlesex, it just allowed me to do, you know, have that freedom. And I think when you graduate, you don't really always have as much freedom when it comes to design products. So, you know, use it now, guys, really honestly. Use that time you have. And I'm sure everyone's told you, Win tells you, you know, every teacher always repeats this, but yeah, honestly, use that time now to really explore yourself. Voice that sounds a bit wrong, but explore ideas, and, you know, just get good at, you know, what you want to do.
And use the workshop as much
Yeah.
as possible. Live in there, because you don't find them outside of university.
And it's really sad that you don't.
I wish I just had a bandsaw over there I could just do stuff with. Yeah.
Amazing. And in the spirit of networking and collaboration, another great thing that I, you know, just a thought that came to mind whilst Dan and Nihal were talking, was, you know, the power of placement as well. You know, like if you can do a placement, do a placement, right? Because you know, in Nihal's and Will's and Dan's year, there was a core group of like 7 or 8 students that went out on placement. When they came back, you know, the touching on things that were emerging and touching on things that, you know, that was ongoing within industry, they brought those insights back into the class. And like, for example, where Keyshot was, you know, just emerging as a powerful rendering engine, right? It then obviously, as they were outputting renders in Keyshot, you know, the rest of their colleagues, you know, saw the benefits of that. You know, it lifted the benchmark, the quality. So both networking, you know, locally and wider as well, you know, learning from your peers, learning from others, you know, creating that environment where you are supportive and, you know, like fostering not only your own personal growth, but, you know, enabling the growth of those around you as well. And that was something beautiful, you know, like that part of the MDXPD community, I think, you know, like every year you get that, right? Like where you have, you know, a core group of students, you know, like that sit around in the studio, on campus, etc. And, you know, both to work together and enjoy the social aspects, but alongside building each other up as well. So guys, on that particular note, Thanks a lot, Nihal, Will, Dan, Mike, right? Also, obviously, Tara, Shada, and Sanjali. Absolutely brilliant. Your journeys obviously really highlights the diverse routes into industry from the core skill sets and knowledge base, from a graduating product design or product design engineer. And all of our participants, definitely feel free to read about their journeys in more detail, right? Alongside their other colleagues as well, who haven't joined us on the call today, across pages 31 to 54 in the MDXPD 2021 publication. So guys, thanks a lot for your time, for your responses and amazing discussions. Now, moving on to the Q&A, whilst we're just kind of wrapping our heads around, the very well populated chat, I'm going to start off with Rikefe and Mike from Australia, who's recorded a few final words, and then we'll move on to the discussion in the chat area.
I thought I'd throw this in there because I can't do the Q&A because I'm obviously not going to be there in real time. I might talk about something that I think may come up in the Q&A, and that's about learning the skills. I think I read some of the other former students questions, and one of them came up to me really strongly, which was Nihal's talking about learning the skills. So when I was in university, I probably spent a lot of time learning hard skills like SolidWorks and those things. And what I realized was that those skills are massively important, especially if you want to focus in one thing. Really being a master at it is undeniable. I remember one of my best mates off the course, Tobias, said to me, I remember I started learning how to use Rhino, and I'll explain this in a minute because it relates to a job that I did that was a really one of my most successful jobs I did. I can't remember what course, it was something to do with DFM, and he was using SolidWorks, and I was like, I just found out about Rhino, and I was like, this thing's amazing, you can make shoes in it, you can make anything. And Tobbs was like, oh, yeah, but it's not industry standard. And I was just like, yeah, but it looks like it's fun. And he goes, I haven't got time to learn that. And I'm like, but it's fun, I was trying all different softwares like Modo and all these different things. I'm a CAD junkie, I think, so that's my thing. Anyway, lo and behold, I think in our final year, Tobbs did a really amazing project, and he was like, I just don't want to do it in SolidWorks because it's going to take too long. And he brought in this really amazing render, and he showed it to everyone, and he said, how did you make it? And he looks at me and he goes, Rhino. So that was good. He sort of saw the benefit in trying other things. So try softwares, try all different types of formats and different things. Even if you think it might be alien to what you're doing, it can always relate back into your design practice. That might be using traditional mediums, drawing more, 3D. Just find something and have a go at different things. Try different things because you're at university now. You try as much as you can, because when you get into the real world, you need to have that craft to a decent level. So going back to Rhino, I learned this software, and I really honed in on it. I really went really hard at it. And I reckon just after I finished, whilst I was at my hobbies. So I was at my hobbies, and I needed to, I wanted to work more. So I wanted to work for myself because I saw what my friend was doing. Dan, I was learning Rhino. I was doing projects for him as a freelancer on his company at Concept Kings Labs. And then a big project came in. I don't think he could have done it. And he used SolidWorks too. And it was Versace. A designer called Solehi Bembury was like, I want to make this shoe. This is around the time when he got the VP job at Versace. And he goes, I've got this crazy idea, which I can't do. I can't make. I don't know how to do it. And he doesn't do 3D. So Dan was like, you use Rhino, don't you? You can do anything in that. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And I was like, maybe not. But I said, yeah, anyway. Just always say yes, it's another thing. And yeah, he sent me these drawings. They were not the best, to be fair, but sometimes it's not about having the highest fidelity drawing, it's about having the idea. And then obviously working collaboratively with different people to bring that idea to creation. And so he sent me this drawing, and I sat there for ages thinking, how am I gonna make this? How am I gonna make it? And I just started in Rhino. I went for hours and hours. This is all the while I was working full time at my hobbies. After I got home at work at, after 7 o'clock when I got home, I was working on my freelance, religiously. And I ended up making the sole with him. And it turned out to be obviously one of Versace's best selling shoes, but it almost melted my MacBook. So I ended up buying a PC and getting around on the PC because I was beach balling for, for God knows how long. Yeah, and it was an amazing project to work on. But like, yeah, that's just me following, you know, a different sort of route as opposed to using industry standard software. I was just trying things, and one of the things that I tried ended up helping me work with an amazing designer on an amazing project. So there's loads of things out there in design that can help you, you know, make amazing things and work on great projects. So try different things and be open-minded to everything. Don't just think that there's no standard in our industry, because it's changing so much every day, and you're gonna find a way to fit in it somehow. So yeah, that's the last thing I want to add. So all the best, guys. I hope you all you know, have a great year and get your final major projects done and work in your folios, and join us all in the industrial design world, or whatever world that lies after your university degree's finished. All the best and thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Rikefe. Thank you, Mike. Superb points there as well. And I guess that just shows again, you know, like your passion for continuing to learn, and you know, not just learning what you're taught in the core modules in terms of SolidWorks, Siemens, NX, if you're in, you know, for example, if you're in design engineering, for example, but, you know, continuing to push yourself. If you know Fusion 360 before you come to university, it doesn't stop you from, you know, for example, learning SolidWorks and vice versa. And obviously just, you know, keeping in touch with what's out there, what's emerging, what's ongoing, and kind of diversifying yourself and your skill set, because it's all for yourself, really, in terms of, you know, that particular investment. And that's superb. And another, something else that aligns quite nicely with that is what Will posted in the chat as well. Another key skill is learning to ask good questions and better questions all the time as well. Superb point there from Will. Now, a question coming in from Kai Stopford to all of you guys. Would you say that you still keep the basic skills that you learned at uni, for example, like SolidWorks, Adobe, the Creative Suite, etc.? And did this set you guys up to work in the industry? So go for it. Nihal, you want to start on that one?
Yeah, sure. So from my side, 100% yes. Adobe, so Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, Keyshot, SolidWorks, I pretty much use every week. Like, you're going to be using it every week. You might not be using it every day. So for example, you might do SolidWorks for a whole day and then not do any SolidWorks for like a couple of weeks, or, you know, it depends. But I think for you guys, 100%, you know, get your, you know, skills at a good level. If you want to go into kind of 3D product design, especially SolidWorks, if that's, I imagine everyone's using SolidWorks at uni at the moment. You guys haven't changed, have you?
No.
Oh, you haven't. Perfect. So yeah, SolidWorks, you just got to make sure you're at a good level. And to be honest, you will learn at the job. Luckily, I'm at a company which actually allowed me to do where it is now, but I basically have a surface modeling book. I did a course literally last week, just to kind of get my skills back on track. So, you know, don't necessarily worry that you have to be absolutely amazing, but keep going, keep pushing yourself in certain skills, and you will definitely be using it after uni. If you want to go, it doesn't matter, you know, it could be, you know, service design or whatever, you know, other types of different ways you want to go, but you will be using software and a lot of it when you graduate.
Definitely. Really great points there. And the other thing to bear in mind as well is, especially if you're talking about Kai Stopford, if you're talking about, you know, computer software also develops, right? Like it also changes. You have new features and new ways of doing things. There's other benefits to it as well. So you always continue to learn and continue to, you know, kind of bring those skills together in new and interesting ways and apply those in projects as well. Dan, what would you say in terms of your basic, your core, I want to say basic skills, I'll say core skills that you learn at uni, right? Both 3D, CAD, you know, alongside all the other design skills, prototyping, etc. Did it set you up to work? Did it set you up nicely to work in the industry?
Yeah, so I think my role and stuff, I'm in a very different role to Nihal, for example. So I'm not touching things like SolidWorks and stuff like that. I don't need to. But when it came to communicating things using Photoshop, Illustrator, or just straight, most of the time, the nature of my role anyway, and how we work internally, is just drawing, but not necessarily, well, I've even got a mock-up here, like how you just quickly do quick prototypes of things. There's like a, okay, this is actually really rubbish, but it's just like how things stitch together. I'm printing out basic things like this, but showing how something would go on a line to be stitched, where the perforations are, because when you see them on like in what we would call spreads, a PDF, it looks really confusing when it's flat. You need to have you need to have that knowledge of how nets work and all of that. You need to know how to use the software so you can manipulate it to figure out how this thing is working. Also just sketching or utilizing the power of videoing yourself sketching or making something real rough. I've always loved using squared paper. I don't know why. I think it just helps to like get dimensions sort of ish accurate when drawing things. And often I do like side drawings, you know, top face view profiles, and I'm sending short videos to suppliers saying, this panel goes in like this bottom panel comes up, this bit slots into here, and that bit must fold over that section. I mean, try writing that in an email. It really doesn't go well in my experience, and don't be afraid to use that. But you need to know those things. You need to know how to use them. Even in my scenario, when I'm not having to use it much, I still need a knowledge of it.
Great stuff, Dan. And that was a pretty good low fidelity prototype, I would say. It does the job, you know, communicates what you want it to communicate. And that's one of the great things of, you know, obviously the course that you guys are, the courses, I would say, the programs that you guys are undertaking. You know, you become, hopefully, you know, through the course of your studies, you know, good and effective, you know, verbal communicators alongside visual communicators as well, you know, like being able to make sense of things and communicate that to other people, other stakeholders, alongside, you know, for example, when there's like a multi-stakeholder collaborations, being able to kind of bring together thoughts and kind of enable those to materialize. So I think that's a superb insight there, Dan. What about yourself, Will? What would you say? Your core skills post university, did it set you up nicely to work in industry?
Yeah, well, I guess it works in wonderful and mysterious ways. I know how to use a drill. I put these pictures up myself. That's an example. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear. But CAD, obviously, I don't use CAD in the traditional sense, or what we learn. I guess Adobe is CAD, technically, is computer-aided design. I don't use Adobe as much as I used to. I've still got the skills. I can pick them up. It's like riding a bicycle, really. And I learned that with SolidWorks when I was at Unilever back the last time I used proper CAD. They didn't use SolidWorks. They used something called Siemens NX, and I think they've moved on to something else now. But it's all the same stuff, just the buttons are in different places. There's nothing really new there, unless there's a massive leap in the industry, and you just got to roll with those punches. It's always good to keep abreast of it. I use I'm still on CS6. I'm not even on Adobe CC because I bought it like a fool just before Adobe CC came out. So I've been working in CS6 on my personal machine, but I use it in my personal life a lot. But it's the principles of them that are the same no matter what you do. So I mainly work in online whiteboarding tools like Miro and Lucid Spark and stuff like that, just because that's what you do when you can't have post-its on a wall remotely with people. But the principles are the same. You're still using like hierarchy of information when you're working with that, and when you're working with people, collaborating is one of the main points brought up earlier. You're working with these tools in the same way. So even though the name of the software or the thing or whatever is different, the principles are the same, and they're the bits that you're learning rather than the thing necessarily. And that's a job spec. In industrial design, you might have a specific job spec because that's a software that they have and they use. If you're an engineer, there'll be a software package that a company uses. But my approach has always been it's the same stuff, just the buttons are in a different place. It's how you use it and your approach to it is what matters.
Amazing. Great points there, Will. And you know, for example, if all else fails, right? You guys study product design engineering, design engineering. At least you guys can do the DIY around the house, right? Nice. You can see that Will's humor and wit, you know, it's ongoing, it's developed and refined over time.
They're not straight, by the way. They're close enough, though.
Amazing. Another question coming in from Carlos Ariel Hualapa Fernandez is, in terms of your development, right? In terms of software and certification, you know, in the industry, do you know if you can get certificates of software when they finish the degree, and is that relevant for them in the industry as well? For example, you have examinations for SolidWorks. Are there any other examinations and so forth that are useful to have, you know, going into industry? What would you think?
Yes. Sorry.
No, you can go. You're probably more
Go, Nihal.
more
Yeah,
qualified.
you don't necessarily need any sort of kind of qualification, or, you know, say if you're like a really like hardcore engineer, mechanical engineer, you know, you can go on to these like crazy expensive courses and really, like, you know, get a lot of, you know, these could go for like weeks, right? And you come out of it with a certificate, and you kind of have, I don't know, whatever else, you know, someone's just signing the paper saying, oh, you know, you're a master of SolidWorks or whatever. But in all honesty, you know, for me, I didn't necessarily need it. I just learned on the job. I picked up the skills where I needed it. You know, I learned a little bit from obviously uni, picked up from there, and all those kind of combinations of kind of doing it here and there, and using it sometimes for my personal life to 3D print some bits. You know, you pick it up, you kind of, you don't need a certificate for it, if I'm honest. You know, you will pick it up, and, you know, you don't have to worry, and you can go, you know, you can get really good at it if you put that time in. And it's also about, you know, obviously you've got to enjoy your personal life, but you've also got to put some time into your personal life to be able to get good at these things, if that makes sense. So while I was at uni, I would spend a whole load of time, you know, on sketching. I know it's not relevant to certain software, but sketching is like a fundamental skill if you really want to get into industrial design. And the more you do it, the more you keep practicing, and the more you put into situations where you're sketching under pressure, you just get so much better at it. The same with SolidWorks or any sort of CAD. You know, in the end of the day, you don't need a, you know, qualification. As long as you can CAD something and the client's happy, it looks great in a render or a visual, that's all it needs. When it comes to design for manufacture, obviously that's another kind of level. Usually that obviously takes a lot more time, but that's more kind of, you've got to learn kind of, you know, certain principles, you know, how much you want to do a certain wall thickness so you don't get sink marks, things like that. You will pick it up, but it's always good to kind of read into it, just so before you get, you know, into a job, you're not like, you know, I made that mistake. Someone was like, oh, did you make sure the wall thickness is a third of the outside thickness? And I'm like, what are you on about? I don't know what you're talking about. So immediately he just gave me a book and just a read on it, just make sure you know it. And then from there, you know, I picked all these little bits up. So, you know, it just depends how far you want to take it. You know, SolidWorks, for example, you know, you can be like a master at SolidWorks and do like a whole course and even teach people, you know. So the other day I had a surfacing course by a guy who's like amazing at SolidWorks, and he learned it, and he made sure he learned it for the course that he was going to teach. So he obviously spent years like getting better and better. So yeah, don't worry too much. Just learn on the go and learn as much as you can. Use your free time to get better at SolidWorks, and you'll see, you know, you don't need a degree specific to SolidWorks or a certificate, you know, just to say, oh, I'm really good at SolidWorks.
Amazing.
That kind of answer the question.
100%. And what would you say, Dan?
Add on to that, I would also say that always good to do courses, to do things, and then if they come with a certification, always good for your CV, obviously. I suppose the caveat to that, I would say, is that, and Rikefe sort of touched on it, is, and Nihal, is learning the skills you need to know, and then also trying new things. But really, it comes down to, we've had a few rounds of interviews and a few different roles I've been involved in the interview process. Often there's tests and things like that, but there's always a review of portfolio and stuff sent in. The tests are there to sort of see how you perform under pressure, and really you can produce something, but your certification won't necessarily show that you can do that. Or have you spent 10 weeks doing that, rather than, look, we need this in an afternoon or a day. That's not to say that it's not important and you shouldn't do those courses, but I think it's more important to, one, get really good at the stuff that you'll use often. If you don't think that you're going to be having to design for manufacturing, you're going to use SolidWorks as more of a visualization tool often. I mean, don't spend loads of time learning how to do that. or not right now when you have the time. Because often I've had some people at work say that they put so much time into things and yet have not used that in their role for years. And they sort of regretted not doing some of the other things beforehand and doing that in their spare time now. So yeah, just a little point on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Superb input, guys. And again, I guess another thing just to add on to what Nihal and Dan and Will was mentioning a few moments back, alongside the certification, right? With the portfolios, your portfolio really does demonstrate your application of the software and your capabilities, right? Alongside, you know, other mini tasks and stuff that are presented to you within the process of the interview, right? Showing not only your CAD skills, but alongside your design thinking skills, prototyping, visualization, design communication, all of these other skills. So it shows it, you know, through application. So you're showing your and demonstrating your skills via, you know, application and the synthesis of those skills, you know, in a particular context. And the final question coming in for you guys, right? And this is from some of our second years, and I think it's a really interesting one, considering that if you guys look back to your final year, like, you know, where you guys were 6.5 or so years ago, transitioning from third year to final year, right? What would you say is something that you'd wished you'd been told in terms of preparing yourself? A question coming from Charles Mortimer. When transitioning from second year to final year, what would you say is something that you'd wished you'd been told in terms of preparations?
I think for me, it was the whole, I had no idea what we were going to do in terms of the, gosh, I forgot the name of it, dissertation, and like the whole area of like a specialism. We need to focus on something for our final major project. That was sort of something that I hadn't fully thought about, because I'm one of those people that is not necessarily a good starter. I love to explore a wide range of things. So for me, I found it really hard to suddenly just focus in on something. And what do I like? Well, I like everything. So yeah, you know, everyone in the course was really helpful in helping me with that. But I think if I had just, maybe it was mentioned, I just didn't pick it up. Over summer, I just wasn't thinking about that. But I think even if it was just in the back of my mind a bit, it would have helped me in some of my reading, some of my things I was watching on YouTube. I'm always watching, how is this made? Things like that. Like, that fascinates me. And I think that would have helped me a bit further, because my final major project, I'm not ashamed of it, but I just went down a route that was very like difficult for me, and it was just not something. I ended up needing to do a load of coding I'd never done before. Basically everything I needed to do I'd never done before. That was my last final major project, and I was like, man, I really love this stuff, but gosh, this is hard. And I realized it was hard when the only person I could get to help me was a guy in Vienna on some random foreign at 4 a.m. in the morning. Like, it was ridiculous. But I think, thinking back, if I had some more time, if I dedicated more time to some other thinking, I would have probably have done some other stuff and even planned my final major project a bit better, because I was very reactional in how I did it. In amongst the chaos of the last year, I hadn't sort of dedicated time, and even though there were some people that entered in with a preconceived, this is what I'm going to do, and Win and Ahmed and everyone else, rightfully so, challenged that to see, let's see where we come to. I think having something as a starting point is better than nothing. And for me anyway, my mind is too chaotic. So to try and draw that out, I found really stressful. It was a real struggle for me personally, being honest. But yeah, just get thinking about things you like, what is a good area, and don't get too confined straight away. And I think just generally browsing on the thing. If you like, you know, Nihal was super into like color material finish at one point. I remember chatting to him a load, and like, if that's sort of the things you're into, subscribe to those hashtags. Just get going on Instagram feed, going on there. If you just you're taking in information and you don't even realize it. I think that's a really helpful tool for when you're going into third year, thinking about final major project. Dissertation can also be used as a major research tool for you, which really helped me personally, and I really enjoyed it. And do not be scared about doing it ASAP when you first get there. At first, I was annoyed with Wim. I thought, this guy, what is he talking about? How am I going to do this? And then it was the most helpful thing, is getting that done quickly and using it as a tool for my final major project rather than seeing it as something separate and an annoying bit of writing. Yeah, and it was enjoyable.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Dan. That was brilliant. What about yourself, Nihal? What would you say?
I think I'll keep it short and sweet. So for me, it was, I wish I had a bit more of a clear vision of what I wanted as an outcomes by the end of the year. So I wanted certain things that would have helped me get, so for example, a certain job. I should have told myself, right, okay, I need to create this. I think it was really nice that you guys did this in the course where we had to create a prototype. You know, that went really well with my portfolio. That was really nice, having a final major, you know, working prototype, these things. But I feel like if I kind of changed my idea a little bit here and there. I knew I wanted to kind of go within the kind of world of like, you know, facial grooming and stuff. But I don't know, I felt like it was just such a personal thing for me, which was a nice thing, obviously. But I just wish I had a little bit more kind of, doesn't necessarily, you know, need to be clear, like super, you know, specific, but just a bit more of a kind of rough, so I know what I wanted out of certain, you know, I kind of, like Dan mentioned, you know, it was very reactive at times for me, myself as well, where I was just kind of doing it like, okay, yeah, cool, I know what to do, like, let me do it now. And I did it sometimes well, sometimes I didn't do well, but if I had like a rough plan, like, okay, I know what I need to get out of this project. I need this for my portfolio of my final major project. You know, I tell myself I need to get this, I need to have sketches. I wish I had all that planned out, you know, like almost like planning out a year project almost. I wish I did that a little bit more. You know, like in the industry, you know, we do plan out budgets, you know, how much we're going to spend with this, how much we need for that, how many people we need on the team. Things like that, I wish I planned out nicely, so then it would have been a bit more of a smooth experience. If that makes sense. But you know what, in the real world, it's not always smooth as well. It's like here and there doing this, that. So it kind of got you ready, being able to kind of jump from this to that. It was kind of chaotic at times, but it was really fun as well at the time. So, you know, I think it worked out for the best. What happened was meant to happen, if that makes sense, for me to be here where I'm at today. So I do obviously appreciate that. But it would have been nice to have a slight, you know, it's almost just a clear vision of, you know, this is what I want by the end. This is what's going to land me that job.
Yeah, great points there from Nihal as well. And I guess just building on from what Nihal was mentioning there, especially for the comment coming from Charles Mortimer, is that, you know, for example, the final major project being the lengthiest project that you've probably undertaken until that point, you know, spanning an entire year, and obviously at the time of graduating, the most recent project that you completed as well. Well, it's a great calling card in terms of your portfolio. It's normally, you know, at the front of the pile in terms of the portfolio. It's got the most in-depth, you know, kind of demonstration of your core skills as well. So one of the cool things there, like Nihal was mentioning, it gives you a great opportunity. So if you have a clear vision in terms of where you want to be post-graduation, right? I mean, you always have support from your tutors, right, in terms of being able to kind of facilitate and achieve this. But then it will kind of guide the nature of the project that you are undertaking, the kind of deliverables that will kind of stem from that particular project, which will then allow you to have the assets that you can then, you know, take forward and kind of put forward in your professional portfolio and demonstrate those core skills, you know, that you in terms of getting ready for employment post-graduation. And Will, what would you say? Because obviously you went straight off to Unilever and then you know kind of transitioned after that as well. So what would you say in terms of you came from Unilever actually, you know, into your final year from placement. So what would you say would be some of the things that you wish you'd been told in terms of preparing yourself for final year?
Yeah, it's I mean, maybe it's better directed at a final year because they'll have it fresher in their mind than I will. But I do remember very vividly that, well, bit of history. I don't want to go on too long, but I did really well in first year. It was only pass fail at that point, so that was good. But then second year, I was kind of went off the rails a bit. I don't know if you remember, probably not. But yeah, I didn't do so well in my second year. Was on track for probably a 2-2 by the end of the degree if I kept going at that rate, if not worse. And then went away to Unilever and came back, and it was like an instance. It was like a switch change, really. And the key word I see there, Charles, you put in your thing is preparing. I think you probably already are prepared, but just by asking that question. Time management, like Dan as already said, like managing that sort of thing, being prepared in those terms. And something I still lean on today. I don't know if are you still double diamonding over there, or have you moved on? Is double diamond still the go-to?
Double diamond is one process, yeah.
One of
the
okay, good.
Exactly.
Good. Yeah, so go back to first principles. If in doubt, go back to first principles. I still do it now. Just sometimes you just have to trust in the process. It works. If you feel like you're going off, go back to first principles. Go back to a plan if you have one. No, and as has been said, know where you're trying to get to, and it doesn't matter if you veer off. That happens all the time, especially in the real world. But obviously you have to meet a delivery. So just stage it out and just be confident when you think you're at a point to make a decision.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Will. And guys, do you guys have any final words for the participants and all of the students at Middlesex University? Will, would you like to share any final words or advices?
I guess nothing particular. Don't be afraid, I guess, is the main one. It can be really scary at whether you're still learning or whether you're going into world of work. It can be really scary. Try not to be afraid. Reach out, talk to people, and yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you need to ask questions anytime. I'm on LinkedIn.
Amazing, thank you, Will. What about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, I think placement is a real key one. I really regret not doing one. And I think one of the best things you can do for your whole course is go on a placement, like a year placement, doing some stuff. And like Taz got a lot from doing her placements over summer and stuff. That can be really hard to find. But doing a year's placement, there was a key difference between people that came back and my second year mentality self. And it was a harsh learning curve, and I had to get up to speed, or you just get left behind. Like, not that, you know, win an army, they're going to abandon you, but it was that. And you got up to speed, or you didn't get up to speed. And then there was a key difference there. So, yeah, I think it would have been easier for me, perhaps.
Amazing. Definitely. And I totally second that as well. If you guys can do a placement, and obviously, you know, the whole process of, you know, looking for a placement, applying for placements as well, and that entire kind of experience as well is invaluable. Obviously, it sets you up well for looking for employment post-graduation as well. And Nihal, any final words there, Nihal?
Yeah. I think picking up from Dan's kind of point, you know, it's crucial that you do a placement or an internship. Doesn't necessarily matter if you do it during your certain year, third year, or sandwich year. But just getting any sort of internship or just a bit of experience will just help you so much. It will just change your perspective on, you know, from making that jump from uni to going into the actual real world. It just changes everything. You know what it kind of teaches you is just what you want to do. You know, you may not be able to do too many placements or internships during uni, but having one or two, or even just one, it will just give you that kind of idea, right? Okay, this is what I really want to do. I'm going to really push myself. Because I knew from doing my placement and internship, it just fired me up for final year. I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I just pushed myself to the point. Well, I broke down so many times, but you know, it's you know, it will just drive you so much, and it will make you not give up on that dream. You know, it's always having that dream. You know, we all do this because we love it, right? We love product design. We love designing amazing things for people, and I think, you know, being able to get up every day and knowing that I've got a fun job, you know, we all have fun jobs, you know, it's a nice thing, right? And that's why we're here today. We're doing this course, you know. And for me, you know, it's been such a blessing to be able to do design and be paid for it. Do you know what I mean? It's something we don't think about. We tell people, yeah, I'm a product designer or this and that. It's like, oh, you probably don't get paid a lot. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. I do it because I love it. I enjoy it. You know, it's never about doing a role. You know, for me, you're here now, you know, love it, enjoy it, get the most out of it at uni while you're there. And kind of final words I'll say is, you know, don't be afraid, honestly, to make those mistakes. You know, I've made hundreds of mistakes during my career, loads and loads of mistakes. Like I've got a whole list of just mistakes, and you know what, you'll learn from them. It can be quite tough at times, you know, quite a few people mentioned, but you'll get through it. You know, the hard times, they're there because they're there for a reason, to get you ready, right? You know, I'm a firm believer that you go through certain things to get, you know, to push you through and get you ready for other things. You know, good things will come. So, you know, be ready and, you know, enjoy it.
Amazing final words there as well from Nihal. And just to add another one there, Isabel Parker, you know, a graduate from 2019, she added another kind of a point there just to kind of round things off. Another one is turn up, right? Just, you know, attend, turn up, show up. It is what you make of it. And that's what Isabel has also added a little contribution there in the chat. So all of you guys, Nihal, Dan, Will, alongside all of those who you know, have contributed as well, Rikefe, Tara, Charlotte, Sanjali, that was absolutely brilliant. Both the talks and, you know, the Q&A session as well. It's absolutely superb. And it's fascinating to see, obviously, all of the routes that you guys have taken, your journeys, and all the great work and stuff that you guys are doing. Amazing.
Thanks, guys.
And now to round it off, guys. All right, it's been an absolutely fantastic 19 weeks as well since we've commenced this series earlier on in the academic year. We had 31 guest speakers over the course of the year. You know, some of them locally, some of them globally, as we have today with Rikefe as well, bringing together a vibrant mix of speakers from across the full spectrum of design and engineering. So from all of us at Middlesex University, product design engineering, and design engineering, many thanks to all of you guys, all of the speakers, and we look forward to staying in touch, working with you again, and hopefully hosting you again at some time in the near future. To conclude, alongside all of the inspiring and diverse guest speakers, I'd also like to thank all of those who supported this series, like all of the module leaders, you know, who shared the weekly emails and details with the relevant cohorts, and all of those who helped out with organizing speakers like Professor Mehmet, Wynne Griffiths, Alex Zivanovic, Nick Weldon, Kate Hurd, Andy Bardil. I'd like to thank all of you guys, and not forgetting all of our SLAs as well, who've monitored the chat and muted all of those who entered unmuted, asleep or busy and unaware as well. So thank you, all of you guys. And to all of you participants who attend, participate, actively engage throughout the sessions, you know, listening attentively, asking brilliant questions throughout as well, and interacting even after a full day of studio sessions. Thank you, all of you guys. I hope you guys all have an amazing break, and best wishes with your final assessments and examinations. So stay well, stay safe, and wish you guys all a lovely break over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thanks, guys. Best of luck, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, all.